Fausty Witches, and I'm here because Chris is just finishing up on a consultation, but no doubt he's going to pop up. Much like those dirty pop-ups you get when you click the incognito window and do a bit of tapping on the old keyboard on that. Right, so this is called Incognito Window, right? Incognito Window. Chris, do you ever use the incognito window on your computer?
Of course not.
Of course not. You don't.
Of course not. I don't have such needs as that.
Is that because no one else uses said computer other than yourself? So you've got no need of it?
No need to hide.
No need to hide. I see. Do you think that other people, patrons, witchcraft livers and such, do you think they use the incognito window?
I think those that are computer savvy probably do, yes.
Okay.
Those that not so much.
The
ones
thinking,
that, what are you on about, Liam?
The ones that don't use the incognito window. Well, there's this thing, this concept, right? It's part of the Akashic Records, they say. It's called Internet History, right? People are now, they can find out what you've been Googling, right? In that Google, you've been asking Jeeves certain things. If he's still a thing, I don't know if he's still a thing.
Like, can you still ask Jeeves?
I don't know if you can still ask Jeeves. But I mean, some of these non-tech savvy people will probably have an antiquated computer that they were doing naughty Googling back when Jeeves was a thing. So if they go far enough back in their internet history, they will be able to find what they were asking Jeeves. And I tell you what, did that man blush? I mean, he got so sick of it, he threw in the towel and just... And did his notice. Can you remember when Jeeves did his notice and he was like, oh, I'm giving this up. And then they couldn't find another Jeeves, so then it just switched to ask.com. And then as far as I'm aware, it just doesn't exist anymore. But there we go. Oh wow, you switched bodies. We switched bodies? Am I wearing... Oh, I'm wearing someone different again.
We're the wrong side. We're normally opposite sides. I don't know what you mean.
Side? Oh, crap. I don't even know if we can switch sides. Can we switch sides? Oh, look. Oh, it's magic. Right? I should imagine Jason, who thinks we switched bodies. He seems the sort that knows how to pop up the incognito window. He knows just what buttons to push, just like Jason, right? When he goes and he types in, goes to the little... There's a little thing in the corner of the screen, right? You go there and you click it. It says new incognito window, right? Or if you're in Firefox, it'll say new private window, incognito window, right? Same thing as a private window. And then Jason goes on to type. Well, first he'll look about. He'll pull the curtains. And then he'll type B. E L. Do you know where I'm going with this? He types BELAMI.com and it goes, it's loading up, loads up. What does it load up? Don't know. Because I've got the parental settings on because I'm a good boy. So I wouldn't know what it loads up. But Jason will tell you what it loads up. And you, Chris, you don't use the incognito window at all. No, you don't use that at all.
No, not really.
Do you delete your internet history, Chris?
Not really.
No? Really? What about the police?
Not worried about the police.
You're not worried about the police? Not worried about all of the... What poisons show up on an autopsy? I had an interesting discussion. Lady Poison was saying this not too long ago, which was like, she'd never be able to get away with killing someone with poisonous plants despite her knowledge, for the simple reason that if the police ever sees any of her computers or phone, just looking at the internet history And just because you click delete internet history, they can use forensic software to go back and look, right? Yeah, she said basically she wouldn't stand a chance, that they would just think, yeah, guilty based on what she's been a Googling. So, you know, that's why I go off grid, IRL, Chris, not virtual. I go off grid, and instead of asking Jeeves or to Google, I ask the Lady Poison. Wouldn't it be cool if we could create on the new Thoth app or something a Lady Poison search where you can ask Lady Poison a question and see what she comes back with? That'd be fascinating, wouldn't it? Really, really.
I think there's a few of them that wouldn't mind being a search engine for the new app.
Asktherunes.com, or no, follow the runes, ask the runes.
Yeah.
Askagaskins.com. Streaming mystifies me. I normally consume material via post or carrier pigeon. Oh. Right, so if we get what the incognito window basically is so that other people cannot see what you've been Googling and such. Your internet service provider still can, though, right? Mm-hmm. If you use a VPN, apparently they can. But if you just use the old incognito window, the internet service provider can tell what you've been Googling and searching, right? They can tell all sorts about your particular tastes and fetishes, ladies and gentlemen, and people in between, right? So with that, who is the magical equivalent of the internet service provider? And what is the magical equivalent of the incognito window? Because there was this thing that we were all, basically scared shitless over, this concept that Jesus is watching at all times and judging, even when you're on the toilet with your phone on Bellamy.com. Jesus is watching you, like your internet service provider. Jesus is watching you, but spirits and such, they can watch, they can see, they can voyeur. They haven't got a lot else better to do whilst floating around by the seams of it. Can you protect against that? Because I've often felt that warding and such is the equivalent of opening up an incognito window. It really does not protect you all that well at all from a higher level things seeing what you're up to and such. Masks and such are kind of like the equivalent a lot of the time, the way a lot of people use them, for like an incognito window. If your family come along and look, mum and daddy come and look, oh, what's young Mr. Liam been looking at? It won't come up because they're all low level magical entities, astral and that sort of shit, right? But a higher level, the FBI and MI5 and such, they know you've been Googling dirty bomb. So Chris, what are your thoughts? As above, so below. Internet service provider, incognito window, forensic searching and software, all of this stuff that we get from technology, is there magical equivalents? There must be. But just what are they?
Well, I think it really depends on the practitioner. But, we talk a lot about, like you said, masks. I think we've talked about invisibility cloaks, about actually making sure that you're kind of operating as quietly as possible, really, so that things don't take notice. I know when we did that, Lady Poison.
Witch Wars?
There was a Witch Wars one. Yeah, we definitely talked about it on the Witch Wars one, about that would be the espionage one, and also the other one.
That was spying, wasn't it?
So the spying one was good. The chat we had about that was about kind of being able to go and spy and not being seen, making sure that if you were doing spell work, how easy was it to track, I think we had all those kind of conversations with that. I think we also talked about kind of and I know I brought it up the other week, and there was a link put on Witchcraft Live last week. I think it was Little Delphi put it up. I think the eve of the fortress of protection, talking about not building huge castles, all that kind of incognito kind of operating below the radar if possible. For me, where it gets tricky is, like you say, for the deity work, how you're then hiding yourself with others. I must say, I kind of do a bit of the kind of deer stalking tricks, rubbing someone else's energy over you to so you've got the deer urine on you, so you can get a little bit closer. There are those sorts of kind of methodologies of kind of lowering your visibility and improving something else, kind of that kind of distract, not just blend in, but that kind of distraction technique I quite like. But
I think by the very nature of wearing a mask, people are going to want to know who is under that mask. So much like in Scooby-Doo, they have a mask and then they put a mask on top of the mask. Could you get the episode like in Scooby-Doo where they're too used to, they pull it off and the butler did it. But then they started getting smart to that and they pull it off the butler and they pull off another mask. And it was actually someone else that won the butler for a change, right? So there's a couple of things that I would like to say. I wonder if you agree with me. The first one is that, is there an assumption being made here about Jason? Presumably, yes, I think we are assuming lots of things, Jason. Why would you want to hide themselves while doing their business? Because their business is nefarious. That's probably why. Everyone poops now. I think everyone does poop. I think the vast majority of people don't like people watching them while they do poop. In fact, some people are a bit pee-pee shy and actually really don't want and wouldn't be able to do it if someone was watching, like Jesus or some creepy Randy Christians in a public toilet. I don't know. So it's the idea of you wanting to mask. Now, I would say psychics are, generally speaking, capable of viewing astral level or below. Most of them ain't even able to pull and see visually into the astral. A lot of them just pull information through. They don't tend to see. They tend to pull and download the information a lot of the time, but it's astral level or below. So that is the equivalent, essentially, of kind of like, because they are here, they're local. That is the equivalent of the family member looking at what you're doing on your internet and such like that. So an incognito window really is the equivalent of a lot of this warding and such that people, a lot of the spell casting and such people put in place so that psychics cannot read them and such, right? But it doesn't work at a higher level. It really does not work. So if you're doing warding and you're doing your little spells and stuff to try and hide yourself, higher level spirits, anything above the astral, put it that way, will be able to see. They will be able to see absolutely everything. Now, I think going down to Jason's point, everyone poops now, I would read that as you don't need to protect what you're doing from everyone. You just need to protect it from relevant people or things. So if you're doing some nefarious work on another witch or doing some magical work that you don't want interfered with, then you probably are not wanting to be interfered by magical practitioners. You're probably not worried about gods, goddesses, and high-level spirits and such fucking about with your work. You probably don't care about that. Therefore, there's no need to hide from them. However, there may be a need to hide from general witches and lower level things, and an incognito window or warding is the equivalent of that. You know, the next, would you agree with that?
I think that's safe.
Okay. The next step is this concept of masks and such like that. So that's kind of like a VPN. Okay. So VPN, the concept is, okay, you've got an address, an IP address, a signature on the internet. I'm going to visit a website, or I'm going to go and do something on a website, dodgy one, right? But that website or other things can see my address. They can see me, right? So instead, with the VPN, it's kind of like I'm putting a mask on. I am going to put something in the way. I am going to use my computer to get another computer to go to that website and then send the information back, right? So it's like a link. So the website and the people that are reviewing just sees that computer, that person, that thing, that mask, as it were, okay? So these people that are creating a mask, what they're essentially doing is creating a simple or elaborate persona, okay? A shield mask thing that is appearing as if it is actually the one that's doing the work. Okay, so that's the equivalent of a VPN. And that will fool a lot of people and it will fool a lot of things. But again, it's not perfect. You can see through that if you go above the astral. Okay, so would you agree with that, Mr. Chris?
Yeah, I think that's, again, it's a safe explanation for those that actually understand what a VPN is. But yes, good.
Okay, so the real question is the thing that I think a lot of the Fausty ones want to know, which is, okay, I understand an incognito window, I understand warding, protection, shielding, that kind of thing, making myself invisible and such, hiding my work and that. I even understand and use a VPN, right? I understand about creating a magical persona, empowering it so that anyone that reads the energy, it reads back to that and that it has a personality. Maybe I am putting on, much like that film The Mask, that takes control, possession of the wearer. Maybe I am making an egregore or something like that that is in fact alive. So then the magical practitioner that is looking, or spirit that's looking back, actually is interacting with something. Is not like a scarecrow, because the general idea of a lot of people's masks that they create magically are like scarecrows. They don't really do anything. They're very lifeless. I mean, it don't even fool crows, for fuck's sake. So how's it going to for a smart magical practitioner? But one that could move and stuff, you'd be thinking, oh, what the fuck is that? You know? The children want to know, Mr. Chris, the Fausty ones want to know, given that it's October and no doubt there's all sorts of naughtiness going to be going on. What's the next step? How can one hide at a higher level? Can you, in fact, go about your nefarious activities without the Jesus watching? Or does one have to resort to these bullshit rituals and such? Like there was this old one about you have to do black magic and dodgy magic if you're a Christian on, what's it? Not Good Friday, between Good Friday and Easter Sunday, because Jesus is dead, therefore he cannot see those days of the year. That Saturday of the year, the only time Jesus can't see what you're doing, which is funnily enough Saturnian. Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
So you can do your nefarious and naughty magical stuff in the church and God can't see is the concept there. Whether that works or not, I would say probably not. But still, there's bullshit kind of stereotypical things, like our little script kiddie hackers that want to not really understand the system, just say, can you give me this little bit of code, please? I'll modify it, and you know, that kind of thing. These people that want to be told. But we're talking high level magic now, Chris. So how would the Fausty ones go about hiding what they're up to from a higher level? Or how would you go about looking at what someone's up to from a higher level? And then maybe we will take some questions. Petulant Pixie obviously thinks some people are into being watched. I think she's what they call projecting. No, not astral projecting. Projecting her own wants, desires, fetishes.
Needs.
Not all of us like being watched. Some do. Very interesting, Petulant one. Why you would even write that in a comment section. And by the way, Shimon, she's back, or he's back. Shimon, back. So yeah, there we go, Chris. What are you thinking?
Well, so it depends how much you're wanting to stick to your analogies with the computers, because at this point you start to lose me with
Don't
the whole
worry about that. I
with
think
the
we've already
hackers
lost some people. So let's just, instead of talking about high-level magic and high-level computing,
yes.
let's
So
talk high-level
at the high level computing, you lose me because
We'll
I'm
lose
what
that then.
I'm good, but I would be interested to see what your analogies actually come out. But I'm not going to try and continue yours. So there's a part of me that goes through a few different routes. So as soon as you are kind of practicing at the level of where these are looking, it then starts to get easier to hide that work because you're aware of the perspective. So working up at that level then starts to be easier for you to cope with that. However, if you're going from the bottom end and we're looking at kind of low magics up, so we're looking at physical magics, those sorts of things are very tricky to hide to anybody else who's looking from a better perspective. So there's one kind of exception, kind of going for your, again, attempting a vague connection to what you've said, Liam, but I like the concept of a Faraday cage.
Ooh.
So I like operating in a kind of magic free zone, in the sense that therefore is off grid. So you are not connected to the internet. Therefore, what you're operating with is a little easier to operate with until it's then plugged in. So at that plug-in stage is the question of when it's then finally visible. But you just select as to how close you can get to the target, or the planned working before it's visible. At which point it's so close to the actual time it's happening, there is no room for it to be argued against, shall we say, because you would then have to be one of these higher looker-oners, one of these big voyeurs. It would only matter to them they were big
like
voyeurs.
The one.
It would only matter to those if it was directly impacting them. So you might be now asking kind of like, well, why would it matter to any of these deities, or spirits or whatever? You've got to remember, lots of people, not the Fausty witches here, but lots of general practitioners like petition work. They like to attach their practices to particular protectors, or outsource their practice to deities and spirits in order to work those individual practices. So that would only matter to them realistically if they've got a vested interest or an existing contract. So it's only otherwise going to matter if you're competing with a witch or a practitioner that is actually working at the same level as you, in order for them to even be remotely aware. So me and Liam on previous podcasts and I think earlier Fausties, I'm not sure which though. It might have been the Hex Heal one. It might have been
Hex and to heal them, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Or Witch Wars 1, when we were doing that one. It might be in there where we are talking about this concept of, not if you're operating at a higher level, that other practitioner is not aware. Now, bearing in mind, you'd have to know who the other players on the field were in order to kind of deal with that. But that's how we would do most kind of witch on witch warring, is affecting them at a higher level rather than trying to directly assault them. But that's a whole different kind of... we didn't call it incognito magic, did we, for that one? What was that one? Stealth? No?
I think we did one that was stealth magic or something along the line. I think we might have done it on Fausty Witches or a podcast or something. I can't remember, if I'm honest.
So there is one out there for that, but that's where we've talked about kind of witch on witch work for that perspective, because if they're not looking there, it's one of those. It's one of those kind of old movies kind of plots where they hide on under the sensors. So think Star Wars, when they park themselves on one of the destroyers. That's the Millennium Falcon, one of the early ones. The park on, obviously, scanners work by scanning outside of themselves, not actually on their surface. So generally speaking, if you're wanting to kind of slip in, that's where you would kind of have the most opportunity there, in order to allow you to not be noticed by their scans. So very few people, because it's actually a practice not many people do. Body scanning is not something people tend to look at. They tend to build walls out in that direction and don't look at here. They don't work on building, armor on themselves, etc., in order to actually keep themselves safe or check there. Surprisingly, how few people use mirrors in order to look at their energetic bodies, even though that seems the most obvious way to go and look at them. But anyway, I've gone off on a tangent, Liam, so bring me back.
I believe what you were referring to is the type of USB cold storage unit I use to keep my Bitcoins off grid.
Yes.
But there is flaws to that, and we are overly simplifying things, because what you have to remember is that someone says rerouting energy. Diana, that's it. Rerouting energy is a way in which potentially you could hide from things. There's one very, very, very interesting question for someone called Organic Black. They talk about what methods for hiding work from another practitioner. That is a wonderful question that I wish I could answer. The problem is that the only way I could answer that would be for you to actually tell me what practitioner it was, because everyone has different abilities and there is no supreme way of going about doing it realistically, which is what the point I want to make with. If you use warding and if you keep a low profile, you use protective mirror magics and such like that to hide what you're doing, and then on top of that, as a person, you go through the process of doing the ritual and stuff using some kind of persona mask type thing. We've got someone that loves to do that in our group. That is going to protect you, not just from the impact of magical practitioners retaliating against you most of the time, but it will also protect you from people being able to see what you're up to at a low level, not at a high level. The real issue is that at a high level you can't really do it. There are things that can, and precautions that one can take. Generally speaking, if you're trying to hide what you're up to at a high level of magic, it shows you know nothing about magic. Because the only reason you do high level magic, for fuck's sake, it's all politics. You are going to want to know what everyone else is up to, and you want everyone to know what you're up to, you see. There's only other earthly people down here that do that sort of thing. When you get past the astral and you're dealing with the goddesses and such, they all want everyone else to know what they're up to, because it's super politically heated there, right?
All about territory.
It's all about territory. It's all about who's bigger and smaller and such. And there is a perfect mathematical system that is going on there of counterbalances and one thing eating another one and absorption and such. So realistically, that is the cheat answer, is that you're not going to do that. Even if you could, you wouldn't. It doesn't work like that there. You want everyone to know what it's up to, so they know. At the end of the day, if you can pull off something that high level, you're not going to be worried about other people and things finding out, because there's no way in which they can't find out, because you're working on such a big level that it affects every fucking thing, basically. What I would say is the protecting against lower level things is what we've talked about. If you are trying to attack a spirit or defend yourself against a spirit or something like that, the chances are you could not give a shit whether it sees you or not most of the time. Realistically, if you're doing that, you are either a bully that are looking to destroy and break something and rule over it. It's fine. Don't have a problem with that. Or you're being picked on, in which case the way that you deal with that is to punch a bully in the face, beat them up so that they never do it again. You know, you don't go and hide.
You missed the third option, Liam.
What's the third option?
Which is put it in a bottle. We have somebody who likes to do that.
Kidnapping is frowned upon, as is bullying and punching people in the face. But yes, kidnapping is also an option. Binding and such. We'll call it binding because that's a nicer term, I think. Wiccan might approve more of that. But yeah, essentially what you need to be thinking about really is other magical practitioners and other things that mean to spy on what you're doing or mean you harm. Really, it's a case of your magic, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's a case of your magic being undone. Most people want to hide what they're doing through fear of retaliation or magic being undone. So what you're actually talking about is if I do magic on someone else or something else or a group or something like that, I don't want them knowing it's me because they'll retaliate. Or if they know something's up, they'll undo it. That is something that's interesting that we can talk about, because that is entirely reliant on that group or that person who you are doing the magic on. What is their ability? Can they undo it? Can they not undo it? Most people, when they understand simple spell casting and graduate through the elemental basics, understand energy can be transmutated and changed and stuff. And if I hex someone, I can heal them. If they hex me, I can just take that energy and redo it. Those people feel, oh, I suddenly feel power. I suddenly feel so comfortable. Till eventually they work out that that's not true at all. People can seriously fuck you up even if you can transmute energy, because that only protects against spellcasting. And there's much more deeper, higher levels of magic that do not revolve around any form of spellcasting whatsoever. That those things won't protect you from. Transmutation's not going to protect you. We've tried, we've watched actually. We've got made a fair bit of coin helping people with that specific situation where someone's working on magic on them at a higher level that they themselves can see, sense, and alter. They, like, I think I've used the term, if you're in a block of flats and the mundanes are on the ground floor, you're on the first floor, and there's a magical practitioner on the second floor, and that magical practitioner has fucking flooded the place and there's water trickling down. You on the first floor can merely just mop up and get buckets under the ceiling. You can't fix the leak because it's up there, you see. The mundanes don't stand a fucking chance. Exactly what you're doing. Mundanes can't do the magic, wouldn't know how to. You're on the first floor in the astral and such, doing your spellcasting and that. You cause problems. They're not going to be able to do anything about it. Same is the equivalent of what is that next level beyond the astral. If you can do stuff there, they can't fix it. Can't even diagnose it because they don't understand what's going on there. So realistically, know thy enemy. Is that a good one?
It's a good one.
Know thy enemy. There we go. And if you don't know thy enemy, one needs to try and assess thy enemy, which is where the craftiness comes in. Because how does one assess someone that is magically more advanced and more powerful and such than yourself? Well, that's where we exploit slip-ups. Because anyone that's watched the UFC and such knows that every now and then an underdog can beat up someone that is statistically better fighter than them. Thank you very much, Organic Black. Wow, awesome analogy. Oh, that's nice. Mr. Chris?
I think she was talking about the house, flats.
Yeah, flats.
So people don't think about it like that. But yes, ultimately, it's about what is the visual range. Because let's face it, that's what matters. more than anything is where is your psychic ability at? So are you able to operate at a high enough level for you to see all the potential problems? Because, you know, the easiest way to affect a mundane without is not with your standard spell casting. It would be to mess with them on an astral level and wait for that to trickle down into their physical bodies. So, you know, that is the most obvious way to be working, which is why we're saying if you really want to be a decent practitioner, you need to be aiming for those those rooms above, further up the skyscraper, really, in order to stand a chance of being aware of everything that's going on. That's why we always talk about levels of perspective, because that's what matters. For most deities and spirits, that perspective really isn't going to bother them. Like I say, the only part that would have any impact is if they have existing contracts with particular deities or spirits in order to kind of counteract that. Because in those moments, you're dealing with not only that person, but that person that has the, that entity that has the power to hit you from a different level altogether. Now, that's not neither, me and Liam neither of us are kind of consenting or encouraging you to go and be making deals with various different entities, because ultimately you need to have the power to enforce that contract, or have a co-signer from somebody else you trust even higher up. Those are really complex practices. What we expect you to do is be able to hold your own, and working on making sure that you can hold your own.
This is something that I've noticed since we've been taking on more and more of this sort of work. Absolute beginners think, I want to do some magic or I want to learn, so I get a spirit to teach me. And they sign some sort of a contract or something like that. The reason why they are signing that contract is because they don't know magic and they want the spirit to do something for them that they themselves cannot do, or they want the spirit to teach them. Think about that. You don't know magic, so you are agreeing to a contract to get something else to do something for you or to teach you. If they don't keep up their end of the fucking bargain, what the fuck are you going to do about it? Because if the answer to that is I'll get something else to deal with it, a co-signee, witness, for example, as Chris said, why the fuck aren't you going to that thing? Because you've clearly got a good enough relationship that's going to watch your back. It's a flawed logic that people get from grimoires, I think. That's where they get it from. I think it's all about pacts and stuff like that. But guess what? That's bullshit. Shimon, what's warding? Can I buy an ebook on it? You can buy so many ebooks on warding, and they're all probably going to be absolute shit. So I wouldn't bother. I personally have come to the conclusion after many years of teaching that I do not recommend books unless it's a book that I really specifically recommend to an individual for a specific reason. And the chances are I will recommend that book for a specific person for a specific reason, because I don't have enough time to tell them myself, right? And most of those books tend to be a little bit more scientifically inclined, because the basic conversation is better once we learn from.
I'm going to give an even weirder answer, which is going to be the best advice I can give for you to go and do this, if you're not going to listen to hours and hours of content of ours where we talk about it, is to go and watch kind of Japanese and various different martial arts movies. I said and I'm saying that in this weird concept of actually understanding moves and counter moves, blocks, etc. Why are you laughing at me?
That was to go and watch Enter the Dragon to learn about warding. That's learn about warding. I come out with, but I didn't think that would come out of your fucking head.
I love them. One of my favorite ones.
It's genius. Watch The Last Airbender or some shit like that, right? That's what your advice is. Warding is not going to protect you from everything, but if you want to learn it, it is important. Go and watch Bruce Lee.
Go and watch some of them and actually see, because actually this is what you're talking about in those concepts, is you're talking about fighting moves. And as most of these are all going to have some link to Sun Tzu and the art of war, I don't think any of you are actually going to sit and read The Art of War, but you might go and watch a few kung fu movies.
It's a great book. It's a great book. I think that's one of the best magical books ever written.
Definitely. And this is the thing, people go looking for magical books expecting them to explain them, and the problem is, we've talked about it a lot, you can go and watch Liam's series on not book reviews and see just how many books that we go out there and kind of go, actually this doesn't say anything that isn't already said elsewhere. You know, we can pretty much melt most of the modern books down to Agrippa at best, and you know, Agrippa was at the very best an Encyclopedia Britannica. Like, he wasn't even really explaining how to do these things. He was just documenting that they all exist in a classification system. So, you know, there you go. I've just insulted Agrippa. We haven't done that for a while.
Love it. Right, okay. We've got to get through some of these comments and such. Days of the week and planet systems. Look, at the end of the day, magic is best taught from an actual person. I don't trust students to teach themselves magic from a book. I just don't do it, because I've seen so many issues. Even with a good book, there are books and things that we've tried to make so fucking simple that even an idiot can understand it. And guess what? The idiots still don't understand it. So I'm really sorry, I can't recommend a book. I can recommend the Witchcraft Live Facebook group, and I could recommend the Thoth Witchcraft Patreon for magical mentor and stuff, but I'm sorry, I can't recommend a book unless it's uberly specific. Deanna, when next Witch Wars?
Oh,
we haven't planned one, but maybe we should do one for the end of October or something.
Yeah, possibly.
We'll book up next Witch Wars competition, Indiana. I know you have a thirst for blood. I can tell by your profile picture. You want the blood.
We'll get it. We are well overdue a Witch Wars. We probably should have another
one.
So
overdue that there's rumors that we had invented a secret Witch War and such, but those rumors are not true. Jason says, how far can a mask be pushed? E.g. face paint versus plastic surgery and such. If you start doing plastic surgery, I think that is fusing your own identity, taking on different identity. For example, running away, like on that James Bond film where they had the kooky weird clinic where they do face alterations and such. I think that's a permanent thing. I'd see that a little bit more like what Chris has done with his current incarnation. It's kind of like witness protection. Needs a bit of holiday because of some political scandals, let's say, and he decides, where are they going to look for me? They don't look for me down that low place down there, especially not in a male body. So, you know, I think that if you're wanting to run away, then a permanent mask may be good. But at the end of the day, most of the good spy movies, then they have that's taken a risk that your new identity will not be seen. How far
you're better off with some really good prosthetics than making permanent changes to your visage.
Mask magic is a wonderful, wonderful craft that doesn't get talked about not nearly enough, partly because the people that do it really good probably aren't going to give you their magical knowledge about it because they're good at mask making, so why would they share that? And it is a defensive form of practice. A lot of really good defensive magic tends not to be talked about, unfortunately. Apart from us, I guess. Who else have we got? Right. Grimoires and the US student loan industry, probably like most other loan industries, will convince people they should invest massive resources on nothing more than a promise of education. Jason's very smart. Jason's clearly not fallen for this, or he has fallen for it and he's bitter. I'm not sure which one it is. Either he's fallen for the grimoires and the student loan industry. I don't know. It depends. Does he have a degree? If he has a degree and it ain't got him nowhere in life, he probably did fall for it. If he ain't and he's a smart, I don't know. I'd agree with that. I'd say that's actually wonderful, and I'd love to use that as a quote, Jason. I think that's brilliant. Martial arts movies also often have lots of athletic men in various states of undress. I mean, I can't remember Donnie Yen taking his top off all that much in any of the Ip Man movies, but Jason, maybe this is Bellamy martial arts or something like that. Are you using that incognito window?
No, he's confused. He's confusing the art of war with the art of sex. You know, the Kama Sutra.
It is somewhat martial artsy, I guess. I mean, I know a lot of grannies confuse Tai Chi with actual fucking learning combat training. I can tell you that. Maybe Jason's confusing martial arts in terms of fighting and stuff like that with the Kama Sutra. Maybe, I don't know. Potentially he is. Organic Black. I'm new here, so forgive my ignorance. What's Liam's channel, or is he always on this channel? Me and Chris are always on the Fausty Witches show on Thoth TV. Thoth TV is the YouTube channel that you're watching. There's a Facebook group, right, called Witchcraft Live. Okay, and in that is a Facebook group we created. So if you're on Facebook, go and join the Witchcraft Live Facebook group. Don't cost anything, and that is a safe-ish place for magical practitioners, often that are just starting out, to share ideas and to talk and to learn and such like that. We also teach people through the Thoth Mystery School, which is the Thoth Witchcraft Patreon, so you can go on Patreon. And you know, we do one-to-one mentor, and we teach people. There are a lot of people that we've taught, Chris, some of which are still alive. And also Liam has OnlyFans, obviously, but we don't talk about that. Thanks, Jason, for bringing up my OnlyFans. We don't talk about that. Unfortunately, I'm a dumbass with a degree. # baby witch. Jason, as long as you understand now, that's all that matters. You're not going to fall for more student loans and such. I mean, some people have multiple degrees and never truly learn their lesson. So,
hey, I paid categorically forward for my second one.
Was I talking to you? Interesting how you just brought that up, isn't it? I didn't say nothing. Nicolas Cage in Face Off. I haven't watched that film, but I'm presuming it's a film.
Yeah, you've never seen Face Off?
Never seen Face Off.
Face Off, they swap faces.
Right, okay.
There's I think one's a criminal and the other one's, they swap faces.
I see.
So one goes to prison. I can't remember what the actual movie was about. I just remember them swapping faces.
Right, we got about 10 minutes left. I think people have learned something, but should we give them some food for thought and give them something to talk about and, you know, anything like that? Because this is on Incognito Window, which is hiding yourself from a Jesus and a spirits and stuff. So high-level deities and spirits, chances are you're not going to really be able to hide from them, so there's no fucking point. The real trick is understanding that you and this entire universe are so insignificant that things with real power really could not give two shits what you get up to. If you want to break this entire universe, believe me, high-level things really couldn't care less. They would not notice one light star go out. That means you can destroy the whole solar system, or that light you could think microcosm, macrocosm as being the nature of creation. I mean, destroy creation. If you can pull it off, well done. But the really big things, you probably wouldn't even notice. I've been in positions in the past, present, future, where I've watched entire universes start and end like a heartbeat, on, off, on, off, on, off. I don't even notice most of the time. But there we go. That's high level magic. You have to be in a higher level plane state to see that. And when you're there, you don't really care much about what you went there for. That's the real thing that no one tells you. You get in such a high state. This is the trick, right? You need to be in a high enough state to get the job done, but not in so much of a high state that when you go to that place, you are such a big, vast thing that the thing that you went there to do seems somewhat
No
insignificant.
longer relevant.
It's the kind of like when you go into the kitchen or another room and you think, why the fuck did I come here again? Except knowing why you've come there, but for actually, why the fuck did I want to do this? I mean, I'm so much more bigger now and powerful and interconnected to all things. That lowly human life I had just now is useless. What will I do? I will drift back again. Then you come back and you think, damn, I can't remember half of that. But something happened.
Oh, all those bodies.
All those bodies.
All those bodies.
Naked bodies.
No, let's not go back to Bellamy.
Well, they are naked bodies from that angle because you're seeing everything, aren't you? Hashtag dipshits with multiple degrees gang. I think he's got multiple degrees. How many of his degrees are in psychology?
I don't think any of his would be in
Are
psychology.
any of his degrees in psychology? I know. Jason, can you tell us what your degrees are in, please? We'd be really interested to know what your degrees are in. Because I don't know. I'm thinking that there does seem to be a ridiculous amount of people that with degrees in psychology that either follow us or like practice magics. And normally it's the most unstable ones. Oh, gross psychology now. He wouldn't lower himself to lobotomizing people.
No. He's far too intelligent for that.
There's nothing wrong with psychology, Chris. Although it is all in the mind.
Oh,
It's
I'm trying desperately to behave. His are all STEM.
STEMs. Oh, right, okay. So I knew he was smart. It wasn't going to be something like lesbian dance theory or gender studies, was it? It was going to be like I don't know, maths or like quantum physics or some shit like that. You know. What do you think, Chris, about the current system of education and such with all of these degrees you can't get a job with? Have you got any strong or weak opinions on such things?
You know, my strong opinions are education is for learning, regardless of whether or not it's actually valid for your job. You should go and study a degree that actually matters to you, regardless of whether or not you're going to spend the rest of life paying it off.
Are there not degrees in which you think, wait a minute, that degree is supposed to be teaching you or educating you on a subject, but does not? For example, imagine a degree in dance where you never did any dance.
I don't think that would exist.
Well, they have film critic like degrees and shit, don't they? Like you can't come out of that knowing how to make a film, and everyone can be critical of films going in. But why do you need the degree to teach you how to be critical of a film?
In the same way that you do a counselling degree, Liam, you learn how is the appropriate way to do those things.
Oh, don't get me started on counselling degrees. Fuck. You're right.
So anyway,
some of the biggest bullshit I've ever fucking seen. And that's just because I know counsellors and the fact that they've come out the other end being absolutely terrible at counselling. And also the fact that you do a counselling degree and then you go to a practice and they say, well, we don't do things like that. It's like, because you're from this school of thought and we practice in this school of thought. It's like, but I've got a degree in counselling. I mean, I've done clinical hours and everything. I paid a lot of money and you're saying I can't listen to people tell me about their problems. Obviously not offering up any opinions or, you know, ways in which they can actually fucking fix things. You mean that I cannot do the counselling here, even though the counselling that you yourselves do is this kind of listen to themselves counselling where they're supposed to sort through their own problems, shoulder to cry on type thing, but it's got to take an hour because I got to turf you out after that. Oh, such bullshit. Any comments on Isaac Bonowitz? I do have comments on Isaac Bonowitz. Isaac Bonowitz apparently is like a paedophile or something like that. I was told that he molests people, children, that there was some sort of scandal, and that's why you no longer find his books. I do happen to find that his book on Wicca, I don't remember why it was, but it was a book on Wicca by Isaac Bonowitz, something like that, was probably the best book in magic, one of the best ones I've ever read, because it took everything that the Wiccans used to go on about. It's very instrumental, and they're going, oh, my grandmother such and such initiated me, I'm a hereditary, and just basically shat all over it. It was great. Isaac Bonowitz must have been maybe a baddie, but probably did a lot of good in the magical community in the form of the research that he did. I mean, Hitler led anti-smoking campaigns. I mean, he was a bad guy, but you can't say his stance on smoking was wrong. Isaac Bonowitz, probably a bad guy. I don't know if his stance on
Wow.
shit. Get a degree in Freemasonry and see how you like that. I know people with multiple degrees and initiations in Freemasonry, but there ain't no fucking magic in
I was
Freemasonry.
going to say, isn't there 33 degrees of that?
But it's a little bit more complicated than that, to be honest with you. There are more of a nutter than the patients. Yes, I do find that also, Deanna. That a lot of the people that are, you kind of go to some of these places and you think it's like that Shutter Island film where the inmates have taken over the institution. Sometimes you think, oh, no. Like when I went to see my nan, who was on the dementia ward, I went to see my nan, and you have to, it was really quite sweet, really. I find it hilarious, but I've got a dark sense of humor. That to get out of the building, all you have to do is type in the current year on the keypad. And there's a sign saying, type current year to get out. It's like you put in the year. They don't fucking know. They think the year starts with a 19. They still think it's 1962. Bless them.
That's
But yeah,
beautiful.
there's some people I think
That's
are
absolutely beautiful.
they lurch towards when you see the door open. They all kind of like, they kind of scurry towards the door. They're not they're not stupid. They might not quite fully be quite common sense, but they're not entirely stupid. There was one that was scurrying towards the door before it closed. I was like, oh fucking hell, I'm not letting that one out. It was only one of the people that work there. It's like one of the doctors or someone else. I mean, fucking hell, I'd have thought you was one of the inmates. They didn't call them inmates now, do they? Patients, sorry, clients. That's it, clients.
Actually, the main one now we use is service user.
Service, that just sounds really bad. I mean, clients, service users, I don't like that one. That doesn't feel very nice, the term service users.
In social care, it's service user.
I mean, I know I shouldn't say that. I'm going to say what I was going to say.
Stop it, Liam. You already agreed with Hitler. Let's not.
Well, I'm against
make it worse.
I'm against smoking. I'm against smoking. There are specialized and valuable skills you learn in school and from your professors that you just can't learn on the internet. I completely agree. Unfortunately, there are also so much stuff that you can learn from the internet that you would also spend a lot of money on in a degree. I mean, look at a lot of these universities, they're putting their lectures online for free now. And at the end of the day, the only real difference, because it's some of these professors that just give the same fucking lecture year on year on year, right? And they're actually putting some of these online now. So you kind of think the only thing that you're really getting on is someone, well, going through your essays and such, because that's the one thing that I've always despised. It's all essay based. Even counseling and stuff like that, a lot of it is essay based. I'm such a vocational kind of guy, Oh, there's an example. For example, I studied graphic design in school. Graphic design, is that graphic design as in too graphic, you've got to click yes, I am over 18 type of design work, or is that graphic design in the forms of knowing how to use Photoshop and GIMP? I learned a lot about typography and how to design a font from scratch. Could you learn how to design a font from scratch? I've learned an awful lot about psychology over the years, from A, talking to mental people, B, examining myself and friends and family, which they tell you you're not to do, but fuck it, I love to do it anyway. And also, I used to do this thing that no one else has thought about. I used to invite university professors that I thought were really smart out for a drink, and I'd just buy them a drink, and they would tell me all sorts of shit, right? You'd get the gossip, which they don't tell the gossip to the students about stuff that's going on. You get their personal takes on things, which a lot of the time, again, a lot of them don't tell you because they've got to be all professional and non-political and stuff like that. I'm thinking, there are people that think I'm stupid because they've spent £30,000 on a degree to be told a bunch of bullshit from a professor that I basically said, what's the reading list? What's the good stuff? Come out for a drink. And very often people that are really in love with a subject will very much tend to say a lot about that subject if you get them talking, like me with magics and such. Simone, I like to see Liam as a DR doctor, DR, like Dr. Dre, but without a degree in medicine. I like to see Liam as a doctor now, but without a degree in medicine. Well, I am a herbalist, and I don't have a degree in medicine yet still treat patients. So you've got me. I'm not a doctor, but I do, yeah. Oh, Jason's holding his tongue. Originally, apprenticeship were the original degrees, not get a degree and go find a job in it. That's why in masonry fellowship you enter. Yes, I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form that all degrees are useless. What I am saying is that I think we need to re-examine education in general and think, particularly as Jason was highlighting, the lies in which people get sold, because education certainly is becoming a cash cow. You know, and it is all about trying to sell, and load people up with debt and such like that. It's gotten very, 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 very bad. Organic typography actually sounds fun, but for 4 years? Question mark. Dr. Magic, Mr. Liam. Dr. Magic? Am I a doctor of magic? Well, Bristol, where I live and I'm from, they are one of the only universities that do a degree in witchcraft. I mean, how fucking pointless is that, right? You can do a degree in witchcraft, and I've met the people that have done the degrees in witchcraft, bear in mind. They can't do fuck all magic. Right?
Yeah, but it's a history of, really,
it's
though,
history, isn't it? It's history.
It's a history.
It's like a witchcraft degree, and you don't know how to do witchcraft. Oh, fuck it now. I think I'm too practical for my own good. We're over time now, Chris. Have you got anything you'd like to say to set?
I don't know. We went so off topic. Started hating on all the people that chose to educate themselves. Over learning how to electrocute yourself by putting your finger in the right hole.
A lot of people don't need to learn to electrocute themselves. I found a lot of people just do it accidentally.
So yes, so I forgot what we were at. Incognito magic.
The stage where we say goodbye.
Okay.
And wave, because we've got to do the wave. You know, where we release the magic. You know, the magical wave and such. Yeah, we do the magic wave. Ready? Goodbye, everyone. And bloody conspiracy theorists will love the magical wave, won't they? Oh, I'm still there.